Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our coverage of America's Vote here on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. We have another hour of coverage coming your way. We got James Stanley sticking through for us. We have had to shift things around, but we do have a great set of two amazing guests coming for you at 2 and 2:30, including someone who's been working to flip a major House seat from a Republican to Democrat and is having some success in New Jersey's 7th District. That's coming your way at 2. But for now, we have the great Chief Elections Analyst here at SWN, James Stanley. It's America's Vote on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining us. James, welcome back. First time on Newsflash.
Thank you for having.
With a big day. Are you excited?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm very excited for this day.
And, all right, well, we'll get through it all. But first, we do want to get with the latest news. And we got some reports of early voting and a little bit of some problems. But first, a story of the Pittsburgh synagogue and a story about Fiza Parani. She's heading to a polling station in Marietta, Georgia, early this morning when she saw some chairs, and each one featuring a name of a victim, the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. Outside the entrance, Pirani said got to the polls at 6:45 a.m. Before the morning rains drenched the flowers. The chairs were situated right outside of the entrance of the East Cobb Synagogue, probably in remembrance. It honestly felt surreal and painful. Wish they were here to participate in our democracy, she said. Pirani's a Shia Muslim who remembers the rampant discussion in Saudi Arabia about this situation. Said the memorial also reminded her of the United States' dedication to religious freedom, one of the primary reasons why my family and I immigrated here. And I just feel like it's my duty as an American. It took me nearly 2 hours of waiting in line, getting the polls despite 10 minutes before they opened, but I did the thing, she tweeted after casting the ballot, which is pretty cool stuff. And it really reminds you of the reason why we go out and vote. We do everything we do in this democracy. And it's kind of reminds you of what's at stake for the two parties and what they believe in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool story. Just want to share coming from CNN there. But other encouraging news from the Democrats. At least 331 million early votes have been cast. A major increase since 2014. There was 20.6 million then. Do you think that necessarily is a good sign for the Democrats, or is it deeper than that?
Oh, no, definitely. It's very good for Democrats. Looking at Florida in the primary, the early voting, they had the most early votes cast by the Democrats in this year's Democrat gubernatorial primary, which helped Gillum surpass, Gwen Graham and Phil Levine, who were really, two of the people who were looked upon as the two people who were really racing against each other. The polls in the primary for Florida had Gillum usually down pretty far, usually actually under Levine, third place with 20% of the vote, while Gwen Graham, she only lost by 3%. But he had a huge advantage with the early voting. So, yeah, I would probably definitely say that this is a very good sign for Democrats that the early voting numbers are much higher than they were in any other election year.
But in states like Texas, we have Ted Cruz claiming such an early lead. Is that in the voting? Should Democrats take that seriously, or no? In some other races, like the Josh Hawley race, I think I heard someone say Hugh Hewitt, I think recently on MSNBC, just said that they have an early voting advantage. But how reliable is that really?
Well, it's more troubling. Liable on the fact of who's going to win, because it should definitely be alarming to the Democrat candidates in those races, but you also have to put into perspective of how many percentage of voters did early voting, because if only 13% of them did early voting in those two states of Texas and Missouri, for example, that might not be a problem. But what could ring an alarm is if many of the registered Democrats do not actually go out and vote for the Democrat candidate. But that will be highly unlikely in this year's election, as this year's election most likely will probably most likely have people voting based off a party, which definitely could be good for the Democrats in many states, but also could be very bad for Democrats in some states where Republicans outnumber Democrats by very small margins. Even in some states like Florida and even Texas, they have more registered Democrats than they do Republicans. But historically, those two states, Texas is more of a conservative state, but Florida is typically a very toss-up state. So we definitely do have a lot of registered Democrats who could really go anywhere.
Yeah, and I really think it should be pretty interesting to witness how this all comes through and folds out here. And what we are seeing is that voters are really quite upset in Georgia, and Georgia is the Gwinnett County area of Georgia, and they really feel like this has not been handled properly. This situation with just the voting in general. Some horror stories include James Herndon's in Georgia. His lines are so long, but they've been extremely delayed. They're having lots of trouble verifying people. Herndon said his wife put the card in the machine and it shot out and said error. And I mean, you wonder who she voted for. Probably a Democrat, being in that they're in Gwinnett County. And
yeah, it's right outside Atlanta. I mean, that area outside Atlanta, that area has a very high African American demographic. So.
Big thing. Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah. So a polling worker said that she showed she had already voted, and that has been happening this morning. Shocking in a place like Gwinnett County, and again, it shows you people like Brian Kemp. They're not going to quit yet. They're not going to quit yet. And I said this on Reddit, like, what can they possibly do on election day if they're going to pull something like investigating the Democratic opponent for a completely made up thing on 2 days before it? What are they actually going to do on election day? Now we're starting to find out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they make all these horrible excuses like the issues, all this other stuff. But I mean, it's probably planned. It's a county that has a very large African American population. Historically, African Americans will typically vote for Democrats, especially now with this election. We got Stacey Abrams, who would be the first African American governor. Well, first African female governor, if elected. Andrew Gillum would be the first African American male governor, if elected in Florida. But she has the power. She also has the force behind her, with a lot of people feeling actually happy to vote for her this year. Because typically in Georgia, for the gubernatorial elections, we don't have a candidate like Stacey Abrams going against a pretty shady who's Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp definitely knew about this voter suppression problem before the election. He knew about it in prior elections. Did he do anything? No, because he doesn't care, because it's not going to hurt him. It's going to hurt the Democrats. It's actually going to help him in the long run, because people in that county who have gotten errors vote will probably say, well, you know what? For the past couple of years, I got errors. So why am I going to waste my time walking over to the election center and then finding out that there's some sort of error, or I already magically voted when I didn't? That's really what the problem is. And he knows about it, and he's not really doing anything about it. He's trying to point fingers instead at Stacey Abrams for some hard lie that he's trying to investigate her on something that she never even had anything to do with. He should be really the one being investigated, because he knows about it. He just doesn't want to make anything to do with it, and he doesn't want to fix the problem.
He's probably made the problem worse.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, he's made the problem worse, because, again, it's just going to help him. It's what dirty politics is. He wants to make sure that he can win in an easy way, and also in a really kind of dark way. I mean, people who go there and vote probably don't really know that sort of suppression. They actually probably believe that there's an error, or that they might have voted. Maybe people now this election are probably more aware of voter suppression, but some people, reading some articles of some people who actually got tricked in 2016, already voted with early voting.
Seems like a little problem with a connection. Beto O'Rourke's win as he cast his vote in El Paso Tuesday morning, told reporters he expects to snag Republican opponent Ted Cruz's seat, even though he doesn't have a poll or pollster suggesting he'll win. After he thinks he'll win, he's like, yeah. What is he gonna say? No, no. He said, I just don't have a poll, don't have a pollster. Just have traveled to every single county in Texas, listen to everyone, and have so many amazing volunteers who we are working with, knocking on millions of doors, making human connections. We are in such desperate times of need in this moment of division in this country, bringing people together. I feel it, and so yeah, it feels good. Yeah, so feeling the good vibes there. That's a good feeling. He feels like he's confident. He feels like he's been putting in the work, and I think even if Ted Cruz does win, I feel like it's really going to be close. But if Beto O'Rourke wins, I hope it's a blowout, because that's exactly what a little idiot, awful person like Ted Cruz deserves. A little sniveling coward like Ted Cruz deserves. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone. Ugh. Yeah, just such a slime ball in every sense of the word there, which is pretty infuriating. It's just so infuriating to listen to. And he's probably one of the people who we hope, out of everyone, apologize for the weird noise that just us, trying to get back with James Stanley there. We hope he can come through. We hope he can. We hope we're going to be able to hear him. Let's just hope so. Cut that out there. But yeah, so James Comey also is out there. He's out there contributing. He's pushing to get people knocking on doors and getting everyone else to vote too. There's also I want to give some credit to some of these rideshare companies who are offering ways to vote. Rides to polling places like Lyft and Uber. Lyft is offering 50% off codes through Vote.org and other voting nonprofits. They're also partnering with other nonprofits to give free rides to voters in underserved communities, which is pretty cool stuff. Uber is offering $10 discounts for voters and is helping people find their precincts with in-app directions. And they're also partnering with voting nonprofits for other election day transportation. And from Dallas, Tampa, a lot of other cities are giving free or discounted rides on public transportation to polling stations as well. Good get out the vote effort there. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, so that's what we like to see. Yeah, Andrew Gillum, he's feeling pretty confident. He's ready to send a message, pretty strong message, over to Donald J. Trump, which is going to be it's going to be pretty impactful to see him. So yeah, we're going to get up into his, what he has to say in a moment.
CNN.com that you, Republican for life, voted for Democratic gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum.
Well, first I hated my choices, right? I've always thought of Florida as a moderate state. Mm-hmm. This is the place that...
This is Anna Navarro talking about why she voted for...
like Jeb Bush, like Marco Rubio,
we really need to listen to this.
Warriors,
all right.
Optimist.
Yeah, so that's... Anyway, Anna Navarro, I thought there was going to be an Andrew Gillum clip, but instead CNN tricked us with Anna Navarro. But anyway, James Stanley is back. Hate to have that internet connection problem. James, can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
I was just going to finish off what I was saying.
Yes, please do.
So, even looking at one of the articles here, someone on their Twitter page here reported that they wait an hour and 30 minutes to wait and vote. This is another way of getting people.
And it looks like, yeah, again, the voting suppression, just as bad, seemingly, as the connection here on Skype between James and me. We don't know what... I don't know if it's real on my end or it's on his, but we just don't know. Yeah, voters are... Yeah, apparently they're highly upset, and they feel like this has not been handled properly, according to people in Georgia. Just back to what he's saying there. That is some rough stuff to deal with in any way, shape, or form. It's not good. Not good at all. Not good at all. Yeah, so... yeah, so we are obviously working with James